going on? My name's Kyle,
My name's Trey.
and this is the Atypical Intentions podcast. But this is a special episode. This is a special, not because it's the ninth episode, not because it's our last single digiter. This is the first podcast where you're a father.
Yeah, I mean, you probably can hear a little extra bass in my voice as my voice just cracked. But, fatherhood, my 4 days of fatherhood have been enlightening, to say the least. Overwhelming is probably the best word. Every noise little guy makes, you go to doomsday scenario. The birth experience was a lot. I don't really want to get into it and relive it, but it's just been a whirlwind, and acclimating to real life now has been quite the wandering in a dark room type feeling. There's no map, there's no best practice of how to handle the first week of a newborn, and it's this constant balancing act now, and it's been this complete perspective shift in terms of what is important. So it's one of those things. This podcast means a lot to me. What I do with Atypical means a lot to me, but does it mean more than my son? Absolutely not. And so it's a constant evaluation of, is this hour spent recording this podcast? Is this hour spent working on this YouTube video? Is it worth it? Because there's such a big opportunity cost now with, just my wife not being able to sleep at night. And if I took this hour and was holding my son and kind of soothing him for that hour, is that time better spent? And so it's this constant evaluation. And I think the biggest thing with it so far is it's just been, in terms of overwhelming, is this constant state of fear. Like, fear you're doing something wrong. Fear if I hold him incorrectly, it's going to, he's going to somehow be injured. I don't know. There's just every noise he makes, you're like, is he choking? Why is he breathing heavy? And I'm sure this is all too relatable with all the parents out there that are listening. But yeah, man, it's a grow up fast, learn to tackle new responsibilities, and really just complete priority reframe. And so I don't know if you can tell the bags in my eyes. I think the lighting in here is just elite because they're covering it a little bit, but I've got some bags under my eyes. I'm running on about 10 hours of sleep over the last 4 days total, 10 hours total. So here we are.
Before I want to like dive into that fear thing, because it's so applicable to so many different things. But I want to keep it lighthearted for just a moment. I do find it not ironic. I find it apropos, maybe whatever word you want to put, that you're releasing a sweatsuit at the same time that you become a father, where like you're trying to be as physically comfortable as possible. Like, it's like you were predicting that you were going to be just like tired and need to be able to just be comfortable and warm at all times.
Yeah, and we're dropping the classic black colorway with the stripe down the side, just because you can wear black every single day, and It's preparing me to be that AU dad. It's not going to be Jordan jumpsuits when Ivy's playing ball. It's going to be atypical jumpsuits, and I'm going to be the dad. I might wear a visor too and like a clipboard to look like a scout at the fourth grade games.
Oh yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, just real quick too, before we get in the podcast, another thing I want to update everybody in the community about in terms of the merch drop was set February 9th. There's so much work going into it, and I was so excited about it. Baby got here. Let's be real. Let's be honest, and I had to be honest with myself. I probably don't want to be packing orders. I probably don't want to be thinking of them, the lead up, the marketing lead up to this thing, with the sleep constraints I'm under. And then also just the beautiful aspect, the beautiful learnings of running a business is, as I woke up 2 days after having my son, I wake up to a call from my EU warehouse that 2 of the boxes came with 3 of my shirts on the top and a bunch of fake bags and iPhone cases underneath. So that sucks. The explanation when I talked to the manufacturer, the supplier, all that stuff, the forwarder, the boxes were switched at customs because the manufacturer was like, this is not my box. And so that either explains it's either stolen, there's either a mishap, when customs kind of checks everything, they maybe somehow put it back in the wrong box, whatever it is, we're out 2 boxes, and that's a whole lot of money. I'm being super transparent here. The manufacturer's being very understanding about it. He's going to make it right. But that just pushes the drop back. And it sucks because this time adjustment and this feeling makes me feel like, I wasn't organized. I didn't prepare correct. It makes you kind of feel like you failed a little bit. This is stuff completely out of my control. And you're a guy who's had some inventory mishaps. I'll let you talk about those a little bit, but they happen and they suck. And here we are, going to push it back a month.
Yeah, man. I've had a couple. I had one when I was in Portugal visiting you. I don't know if you remember this, but we for Black Friday oversold like 500 units of our products. So with our manufacturing timelines and everything like that, it was going to take like 3 months for us to get inventory back to get these products to our customers. So we sent them emails and we're like, hey, you can wait. And we'll give you like a 25% off coupon for our website for anything we do have in stock, or you can get a refund and we'll just call a spade a spade. So probably 300 people were like, it's okay, I can wait. But still, like, you want to make it right as quickly as possible. And there were about 150 to 200 of those 300 orders that we could have air shipped pretty cost effectively. And because we were already air shipping, so we were going to like add it in to this air shipment. And the air shipment gets there, our 3PL, our warehouse, calls us and says, hey, they're not in there. Like, what do you mean they're not in there? Yeah, they're just not in there. And I'm like, what? Like, I have like customers who are like telling me that like they're getting to a place where like this is a scam. Like, I've been waiting 3 months. Like, why?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do everything I can to rectify the situation. And they're like, yeah, they're not there. And then I talked to all the parties involved, and they're like, oh, I forgot to do that. And you're like, what?
And the worst part is it falls back on you. And you're like,
Yeah.
dude, I swear I'm not an idiot. I swear.
Yeah. And it's like, it's no fault onto anyone's like situation. Like there's no purpose in pointing fingers and doing any kind of like name calling or anything like along those lines. But you're just like, you're sitting there with that experience and you're feeling the pressure of letting people down, of not being good enough. And it sucks. It just sucks. It's like, it's a little bit different, but I'll give a different answer. About 6 months ago, I became like a W-2 employee, right? I became an employee, after owning my own business for about 7 years. And I used to coach and teach at the college level, and I was talking to one of my former athletes, and I would say he's a friend now. So if he watches this, he gets that. I keep telling him he's not my friend, but he can listen now. That it's a little Easter egg for him. But he was like, "What is it like? Is it nice being a W-2?" And I said, it sucks, and it's nice in the same way that being my own boss sucked, and it was nice, right? Like, think about how much you wished 5 years ago that you could have this problem, right? That you could have the finances and the community of atypical people who care about the merch, people who are sad that it's not ready yet, right? So it's nice, and it sucks.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my message to you, is that there are going to be these moments where you have these weird phone case situations, and then you're also going to have these are high moments where there's a really cool moment in the community. I don't know if you really like reflected on this yet, but you posted a picture in the locker room chat of Ivy. And you have like these people who are coming in to like learn from you, and you're learning from them, but also like being able to like share this like community moment about the fact that like there's a new member of the Drexel clan, there's a new member of your family, and um it felt honest, it felt true, it felt real, it felt like people were really excited for you in that moment. So um
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. Exactly what you said is the conversation I had with Carly the other night. For those of you, most of you guys listening know, Carly's my wife, but we were just really struggling. The no sleep, the just a lot, and we kind of, you know, I looked at her and I said how grateful we are, or how lucky we are that this is our stress. How blessed we are. How blessed we are that Ivy's healthy and our stress is sleep and it's not his health, and our how blessed we are to have a healthy baby boy and have the blessing to be able to be sleep deprived and stressed. It's just common things like how quickly we complain about the work we have that we used to pray for that work before, and it's this constant reframing that I'm trying to do as much as I can in this overwhelming moment. And it's the same way with the merch stuff, like exactly what you said. How blessed am I to be able to be frustrated that an inventory shipment got lost? Because 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of the level the merch has got to, or the quality of the pieces. And I probably wouldn't have cared if a couple hundred shirts got lost. So anyways, to start our podcast, we tried to make it not heavy. Then it was kind of heavy, and now we're back here. Now we're gonna really make it heavy, because the topic at the top of my mind, and the topic me and Kyle have kind of been going back and forth on, is this idea of fear, and this idea of it's just so front of my mind with having a son on the way, and with the uncertainty of my injury rehab and all these things. There's just so much space for fear in my life right now, and it's really a constant battle of acknowledging that fear, but not succumbing to it, and operating with a certain level of fear all the time, and still being the man and showing up as the man I want to be every day. And that's a process. And so, yeah, you got any thoughts on fear?
So I was reading about this idea this morning, and I think that from my perspective, a lot of fear, I'm not saying all fear, because I'm sure there are things that I'm missing, but a lot of fear stems from unknowns, right? It's not about, it's not like I fear a thing. It's like I fear what my life will look like after the thing happens that I don't know about, right? It's like I'm not afraid that people aren't going to like my merch because I want them to like it. It's like I'm afraid because if they don't like it, what happens next? Do they not trust me anymore? Do they not believe in my mission anymore? Like, am I misrepresenting my thing, right? The fear of what happens after I move into this unknown. And I was reading about this, and I'm probably going to butcher the actual like etymology of it, but historically on like ancient maps, whenever, like the Romans, for example, whenever they were charting out a territory where they knew there was land, but they didn't know what was on the land, right? So it was like uncharted territory, but they knew the territory was there, right? They would put in Latin, it's spelled HICSVNTLEONES, so it's like Hix Vent Leones, which means here be lions. And I've been like buzzing on this idea of here be lions because it's so evocative, right? There is a black box. We don't know what's on the other side of this fear, and or the other side of this thing, and we assume it's dangerous, right? We assume there is a dangerous side of this thing, right? Like, in the same way that like Ivy makes a weird cough, right? And you're like, oh, that cough means bad. Whereas, like, maybe he's breathing too much. I don't know, right? Like, we never assume in a moment of fear, like, or in a moment of unknown, that the thing that is unknown is good, right? Because as like evolutionary beings. We're trying to stay alive. We're trying to continue. We have defense mechanisms to keep us alive. So therefore, not knowing something produces fear, right? And it's the same reason why we always say there's monsters in the bed, not rainbows and unicorns, right? We always assume the worst thing is in the place that we don't understand. So yeah, I might like get Here Be Lions tattooed on me at this point. Like that's like, to me, it's so vivid.
Yeah. That's a really interesting concept because as you explain that to me, like I totally get that. And that's like the natural human inclination. It's that fight or flight. It's a protection mechanism. And that's exactly what fear is a protection mechanism. But it isn't conducive to us operating in our best space. Because if you always operate from this place that something bad is going to happen, it removes your risk tolerance. It removes your ability to really go for the things you want in life, because anything worth going for, anything big endeavor, your mind will say that the lions are bigger, right? Because there's bigger stakes, right? And it's not always the case, but that's what our mind does. It's like, no, there's not one lion. There's a whole pride of lions. You like that I got the plural there? That was pretty nice. But there's a bunch, and it's what's interesting about it is there's lions around every corner, and lions don't kill you every time. Let's just say that. Like oftentimes you get around the corner, and there's a lion, but it's not. I can manage this guy. He's a little pup. I can manage this guy, and it's interesting too because once we actually face the lion, think of the hiker on a hike, and he's got the bear spray, he's got everything prepared, and he's really scared of the bear. And when he gets to the bear, in that exact moment, when you're facing the bear, when you're facing the lion, are you feeling fear, or are you feeling like, oh shoot, I gotta make something shake? Or it's like, oh, like now you're actually like fighting, or like you're running for survival, maybe, if that's the option. But you're not running like, oh, I'm so scared. You're like running like, and you're like problem solving. You're bobbing and weaving, and I wouldn't say that emotion in that moment is fear. It's almost like, you know what I'm saying? Like when you're actually facing the thing that you were so scared of, you're actually not feeling fear. I would almost like you said, classify fear as the emotion before the uncertainty, not when you face the obstacle, when you face the lion. Kind of a weird reframe there, but
yeah, no, I like that. I like maybe it's fear, but like in a different state of being. You know what I mean? There's like because I do think you're still afraid when you're running away from a lion, but it's not holding you back, right? So there's no passivity in it. Or maybe it becomes a second order problem, right? It's like, yeah, I am afraid, but also I am trying to survive. I am more worried about the feeling of the necessity to survive than I am letting my fear pacify me.
Yeah.
But it's a really like important thing, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not lions that we're facing. It's not bears. There's another version of it, which means here be dragons, right? So if you're more of a dragon lover, or you like the more mythical things, here be dragons has also been found on maps. But it's rarely ever these things, right? It's rarely ever these big, scary monsters. But what it is you're a hooper and you had a 30-point game and you find yourself really worried about, can I do it again? Am I actually that guy who can go and score 30 or who can average 20? Or maybe you're a entrepreneur and you have a good launch, or you're your first launch and you're like, I don't know what this is, but I've worked really hard on this. Maybe I'm not enough, right? The fear isn't as like obvious as a lion, right? But what you're really playing with is what happens from an identity perspective if I'm not that, right? What happens if I get the D1 scholarship or I become a professional athlete or I do these things and I get there and I'm not good enough, right? What then? Because that is a death, right? That's the death of a version of yourself that you thought could exist. And so what we do is we stop ourselves from getting into scenarios where it can either prove or disprove that version of ourselves, because it's better to go through life, in theory, obviously it's not, but like in our heads we make this justification that it's better to go through life with the option of being the thing we've always wanted to be versus coming to the reality of like, I'm never going to be that. You know, because the reality of that scenario, it seems and is more fearful and more painful than not knowing. And maybe that's different for some, but I think that's the true like imposter feeling of, I would rather not know than know.
I think you're right. There is still fear when you're facing the dragon, when you're facing the bear, lion, whatever animal, whatever scary apex predator we want to put there. Let's do that. But the fear that I think is compartmentalized, and I think that fear is normal. And I think that fear is inherently good because it spurns us when we're facing that thing. It spurns us to action. And the fear that we need to address more as athletes, as entrepreneurs, as people that want to accomplish our goals is the fear that paralyzes us. Because that's the fear that will actually really impact your life. That will really... It really gives opportunity. It gives space for regret, and that's what we really don't want, right? And a good example I think of is the feeling before a tryout, or the feeling I had before I stepped onto campus at my Division II as a walk-on. Hey, am I not good enough? You know, or before the tryout. If you allow that fear to win, you don't go to the tryout. And you sit there and you sit there on your couch and you're like, I would have made the team if I went, but you make something up. But that was fear. And that fear holds you back from everything that you aspire to. But then when you're at the tryout and these guys are big or whatever, that forces you to play better. That's actually the fear that forces you to, I'm going to dive on these loose balls. I'm going to show, you start, kind of resorting to things that are your strengths, because when you're really scared, you're going to go, okay, I know this works. I know me, diving for this loose ball works. Me hustling for this rebound works. And you kind of go back to the things that work. And that fear also illuminates what you know about yourself. And it illuminates how you view yourself. And that's where it's needed, because it's such a great reflection tool, and it's such a great tool to kind of know yourself better, know your game, know your capabilities, know what translates, know what you actually believe, right? This has been a pretty cool kind of dive into this, because I made the initial assertion that there's no fear when you face the bear, but good Lord, there's fear. But that's a different type of fear. And I didn't even qualify it as fear because I'm so used to the fear that paralyzes, not the fear that spurns to action, right?
Yeah.
And as athletes, dive into that fear that spurns to action, because that's where there's also uncertainty in who you can become.
So this actually is a really interesting tie-in to the book that you're reading, Thinking in Bets. Because, like I said, a lot of paralyzing fear specifically comes from, like, the unknown, right? And so we do two things, right? So we create scenarios that would make us successful, but we never actually have to do them, right? And then we create all these reasons why the fear is not worth it to venture into the unknown, right? It's like, it's not worth it. My favorite one is the former, right? So you and I went to a small private high school, right? there are many examples of people who are on our sports teams across a lot of them. They were like, oh, I think I'm going to transfer to Bothell High School. Or I'm going to transfer to Woodinville, and I'm going to go there, and I'm going to become a D1 athlete because I'm there, not here, right? And then they're like, oh, no, but, like, I have all my friends here, so I'm going to stay here. But, like, I'm really giving up this, like, D1 dream to be here. You know what I mean? I think I could probably name 10 people if I wanted to name drop. But, like, that's a very common kind of narrative, right? And what you're doing is you're kind of, like, circumventing the unknown of, like, do I know if I'm good enough? It's like, well, I can't be because I'm here, not there. You know what I mean? And I've actually met people from there who say I'm like them, and they're that, so therefore I could be that too. You know?
Right. Right. I think that's, it's funny because it's always like the fear paralyzes you so much that you end up doing the mental gymnastics of creating a reality where you weren't paralyzed from the fear, but you're just your circumstance forced you to not take the risk. And it's like, no, man, you just didn't take the risk because you're scared. Look yourself in the mirror. And that's fine. But all I'm saying, if we want to become the person we want to become, if we want to at least give ourselves a shot, you got to face the risk head on. And that mental gymnastics is so common, and it's the same idea that you can equate it to, you know, shooting a buzzer beater. It's the LeBron. Excuse me, I said it 4 times. Sorry. Whenever I say LeBron, I start to tweak out. But it's the LeBron not taking the game winner and making the pass because it's the best basketball play. There's a little nuance to that because, you know, a lot of times it was the best basketball play, but it's where Kobe's like, I'm taking this shot and living with the result no matter the circumstance because I have zero fear. And it's LeBron making the pass and saying, well, if I would have took the shot, you know, maybe it would have went in. I probably would have made it because I'm clutch. And then it becomes, for so long, the narrative was that he's not clutch or that he doesn't take those, he's not a killer in those big moments. And then it became this, like, all the LeBron sexuals would join up and create montages of him taking the shot. It's like, yeah, you have to do that because he succumbed to fear. And I don't know if it's direct correlation that he succumbed to fear because basketball is a dynamic game. And a lot of times he did find the open guy. And a lot of times it was a guy like Boobie Dixon who was a knockdown 3. But even though Boobie Dixon was 40% from 3, sure would have loved LeBron taking that shot even if he was 32% from 3 because that's LeBron.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of optics on that one.
The other side of it, right, which is the, like, staying still, right? And I say this a lot, but a lot of times when you don't know what to do, right, so this is less about fear, this is more about what to do next. When you don't know what to do long term, what you do is the next right thing, right? If I don't know how to train to become a better basketball player, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up at 5 in the morning and go to the gym. Not because it is empirically the best time to go to the gym or anything like that, but it's the first thing I could do in the day. So, like, that way I know that, like, I can get there and I can do the thing, right? It's all about doing the next right thing, and that way you can get closer, right? Because no one would ever argue that getting in better shape or getting stronger or getting more agile as a basketball player would make you worse at basketball, right? And I really like this paired with this idea of thinking in bets, right? Because you all have, it's a probability thing, right? Where you're saying, I don't know if I am good enough, right? We're going to use basketball for this analogy because that's what we're talking about. But, like, I don't know if I'm good enough at basketball to play the Division I level. I don't know if I'm good enough to play at Division II. I don't know if I'm good enough to play the NAI. I don't know if I'm good enough to make the varsity team, right? But the bet I'm going to make with my energy and my time is that if I can shoot 40% from 3 on catch and shoots, I will find a spot on a team somewhere, right? Because that's what basketball teams want. And so you're using this logic of, I don't know if I am, but I do know this, right? And to take it back to your first kind of monologue about fear and Ivy and like he makes a weird noise and you don't, it's like, yes, that is scary, right? It's inherently scary, right? You have this living thing that is now the most important thing to you in the entire world, and it's not even close, right? But when Ivy turns 30, which you're turning this year, when Ivy turns 30, is Ivy gonna say like my dad was always there to like, is my dad always did the right thing, or is he gonna be like my dad was always there?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right. What's more important in that moment for him? That's powerful.
Right? And so it's like, yes, I may make the wrong decision at times, but I know that if I keep showing up and I am there for Ivy, like that is the metric that matters, right? And that will help you squash a lot of fear, right? Because it's like maybe I am doing this wrong, but I am doing it. Right? Yeah. Like that's like, and it's a weird thing that people like discount, right? They discount this like showing up is 90% of the work, and then it's what do you do next, right?
Yeah.
So that's my once again advice from a guy who doesn't have kids. So
yeah, and I think if we apply that advice to the basketball development journey, is the common theme I hear across social media, what I even hear in my community is guys are always asking me, what should they do? You know, what drill should I do? Who should I listen to? How many reps should I do of this? How many this? And there's a constant search of what to do. And that search is needed, but it starts, that conversation between me giving you advice, it starts with you first being at the gym and figuring out that solution first and showing up first. And it's the same way I see so many athletes not put in the work or not even show up because they're like, I don't know what to do if I was there. Okay, but you're missing the point. Go there first and just try stuff. Whatever you know about basketball, do it. Whatever you've seen, it could be good drill, bad drill, just go do it. And then once you build a foundation of showing up, now we can figure it out. You know, now we can be like, okay, you've been doing that same drill and you haven't improved your mid-range jumper. Let's try and tweak it. But like you said, the biggest part of the battle is just getting over that hump, because the excuse that I never reached my potential is there for you if you don't show up, because you're like, I just didn't know what to do. No one took me under their wing. Nobody showed me the ropes. But if they would have, I would have been a D1 player. And that's the thing that I will say, I'm very confident in my ability to show up. You know, I've shown up through a lot of fear, a lot of uncertainty. That's honestly the inspiration for why I started Atypical, because I had to show up every day at the gym with so much fear because I had nobody telling me what to do. I had no mentor. I had nobody saying this is the path. There was no confirmation. It was just run the path, figure the path out. And it was isolating. It was lonely. But that was the battle, and that's what got me to at least this point, whatever this point is, wherever I'm at. It started with me just buckling down, show up, figure it out along the way, and ignoring the I don't know what to do, and be like, hey, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to try to do what I think I know. And from that foundation, now I'm allowed to be in those conversations with those guys, fine-tuning their process, because I fine-tuned it myself. So instead of asking for a handout from the guy you look up to on social media, I get this all the time. I get this message all the time. I'm a 16-year-old hooper that has no handle, or I don't have a jump shot. Can you give me some drills? Yes, I can. But I don't know you better than you know you. So me giving you advice, even if I have higher understanding of basketball development and training, my advice isn't as valuable as your advice to your own self. And it always makes me feel bad. I'm like, I can't really help you. And now what I've done is like, hey, join my community. And it sounds like a sales pitch, but it's like, join my community so I can get to know you, so I can actually give you some sort of advice, because I can't help you if I don't know you. And there's no blanket solution to anything, even though the internet's riddled with it. You're riddled with these people telling you, you do this, you'll get this, because that's what people want. But that's, in reality, that's not what will move the needle. It will if they've established that foundation. That takes overcoming the fear and just show up. Like you said, showing up's 90% of the battle. And I think that's a really, really powerful message, especially for, young athletes that don't have expertise. The thing is not to hunt the expertise. The start is to hunt the foundation. And that foundation is almost always built from showing up and just workshopping. Just do it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I think that if people want to know what happens, right? What happens when you go into your fear, when you go into the unknown, when you go into the cave, if you're using kind of Joseph Campbell hero's journey type of language. What happens is you get what you have, right? Which is you created a brand that is not just a mission, right? It is an inversion of your own fear, right? I had this fear because I felt isolated. I had no mentor. I had no one telling me how to get to where I wanted to go. And so I had to just go into it. And so you said, if I had this fear, I'm sure someone else had this fear, and I'm going to help them through it, right? So that's the first thing. So it's a beautiful articulation of the fact that atypical is truly just an inversion of the one of the largest fears you've ever faced in your life, just to put it simply. The other thing that's really kind of powerful, which is also kind of weirdly enough slipping my mind, this idea that with YouTube and ChatGPT and the internet, right, knowledge is a commodity. Knowledge is everywhere, right? There are thousands, millions of videos and articles and posts or whatever talking about what you should do, the best way to do something. Here's how to get better at this. Here's how to do this. Here's how to do this, right? So when you're trying to articulate the unknown is no longer knowledge, right? Knowledge it's easy to find. The difference now, what makes someone great is wisdom. The application of knowledge, right? And the wisdom is also a piece of the humility of knowing yourself, right? Like, I know that if I watch Big Man U on YouTube, like, I'm still 5'9". Like, I'm still not gonna be able to do like a drop step dunk. And so there's wisdom in knowing that, yes, this information is good for some, but it is not good for me. Whereas if there was like small guard U, that's where I should learn my information and try to find applications, because there's wisdom in that. There's wisdom in knowing yourself, knowing what you're made of, knowing what your opportunities are, and then applying knowledge appropriately. And the other thing is, like, fear can stop you from doing. Fear can also stop you from facing the reality of the situation, right? Like, how many kids do you know or growing up that were like, oh, once my growth plates are still open, once I hit that growth spurt, then I will become the thing, right? They're waiting on the nature of who they are to change. They're waiting for their raw goods to become better raw goods. Mm-hmm. Whereas you think about like I think Anthony Davis is probably the best example of this, right?
Zach LaVine too.
Zach LaVine. So like, Anthony Davis was 6 feet tall as a junior.
Yeah.
Was playing point guard for his high school team. Grew to 6'9", 6'10". In one summer became a big, right? Mm-hmm. And then everyone's like, oh, this guy has crazy guard skills. It's like, yeah, because he was using what he has, and that turned into something else. That's great. But he was already ranked really high nationally.
Yeah, he was showing up.
Before he grew 9 inches.
Yeah.
So he would have been a college basketball player regardless of the growth spurt. He just got to become the number one overall pick because of that. So it's
Yeah.
like, yes, you can your growth plates being open can unlock a new version of your reality, but the waiting for that reality to present itself and then I will start is not gonna ever help you.
Yeah, I mentioned Zach Levine there just because he's a local guy, like grew up in essentially the same town that I grew up in, was at the public school to my private school, and I remember just going to the YMCA. I was just some chubby little seventh, eighth grader, and he was small. He in eighth grade, he was like maybe 5'6", 5'7", skinny, kind of like built like a young Steph Curry, right? Wasn't super athletic like he is now, and he was maxing out his abilities at that level. He was training with his dad every day. He was playing in these noon runs with the grown adults, and I'd always try and play, and they wouldn't let me play. But Zach was in there because he was good enough, and he was 5'6". And then come his sophomore year, he's 6'4". All of a sudden, he's got long arms. He got bounce. All of a sudden, everything's like the raw goods are improving. He's able to East Bay. Now he's, top 20 prospect in the country. The rest is history. But it's exactly the same as Anthony Davis. He was working with where he was there, and that wasn't deterring him from reaching his goal. His goal is just like his trajectory just got higher off of essentially chance. Essentially off, hey, you're actually going to be 6'4", and now he's 6'6" with bounce, like long arms, whatever. So it's one of those things. Don't use your current reality as an excuse to not show up, as an excuse to write off. Like, use it as, hey, this is where I'm at today. If I put my best foot forward, I think I can accomplish my goals. And if the raw goods improve, you know what, that'd be sweet. But I'm not counting on it. That's not what's determining whether I show up today. And I think we bring this all back to, this whole conversation back to fear, because the fear that the raw goods will never be enough is what we're talking about there. Because, hey, why would I work so hard and put forth all this effort if I'm going to be 5'6"? And if your goal is to play college basketball, then you work through it. You work like it's going to happen. If it doesn't happen, hey, you learned a lot along the way. You faced the lion. Maybe you didn't get the thing, but you slayed about 15 other lions on the way, and now you know how to slay a lion. So now you know. That's why they say athletes are some of the best employees, is because part of the athletic experience is facing those lions. And when you get to the corporate world, become an employee, an entrepreneur, that's all it is just facing lions all day long. But it's the athlete that understands that, embodies it, and takes that to heart and creates facing fear as a knee-jerk reaction, as part of the game, instead of a constant, this is scary, pause for 2 weeks, instead of, this is scary, I go in today and I face it, so.
Yeah. I have two things to say off that. So the first thing is the advice that I will give literally anyone trying to do anything. So this goes to anyone, I guess. I was talking to a student at Northwest. He had to interview me for a class or something like that, and I was chatting with him. And at the end of the call, I said, "Hey, do you want some unsolicited advice? Do you want me to tell you what I think you should do? And I don't even know you." He goes, "Yeah." And I said, if you want something, if you want a thing, what that typically means is you want a life that supports that thing, right? People don't just want to play professional basketball. They want to be a professional basketball player, which means living the life where the big thing you do that day is practice and eating and recovering and exercise, right? They want the life of a professional athlete, right? And I said, just start living that life now, right? Start living a fraction of that life. So if that means that as a professional athlete, you get to get your 2-a-day lifts in, it's okay, we'll carve out time to do 2 lifts a day. Or means you get to get up X amount of shots a day. It's like, okay, well, maybe you won't get 1,000, but you can get 250. Like, start, like, if there is a thing that you want, think about the life that you would have to live to have that thing, and just start doing it for like a little bit. You know, like, yeah, you don't have the opportunity right now to do it for 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day or 24 hours a day, right? But I'm sure you have 30 minutes. I'm sure you have 30 minutes to cosplay your dream life. And what happens is, and this is the craziest thing about the way the world works, is that 30 minutes will turn into 45 minutes, will turn into an hour, will turn into an hour and a half, right? And then if you find yourself dreading starting the 30 minutes, what's really happening is you don't want the life. You don't want it. Mm-hmm. So don't tell yourself that you do, because you don't even want to live that version of your life for 30 minutes a day. What would make that life a paradise for you for 8, right?
Right.
10, 12.
Right. It's exactly the concept of, it's basically like you can create a 1 week, you know, like when you go into a new job and that first week is terrible. A lot of times you don't know what that job was going to be like, so you can't cosplay it beforehand. But with something as in the spotlight as a professional athlete, I mean, you could even watch my YouTube videos and be like, I want to do some stuff he's doing. You know, it's obvious. You can almost do a job trial of, do I want this thing, right? And I think that's so powerful. But I think there's also a caution there, because mine and yours, one of our favorite quotes is, copy the rise, not the results, right? So in that, when you're taking the pieces from the professional athlete's life that you want, we don't take the things that they're doing now. For example, if you're a 12-year-old kid and you see that I go to red light therapy and cryotherapy, that's not the cosplay we want, right? We want the broader generalization of the life. Okay, he went and he lifted today and he worked out, and when he worked out, there was some live play. And you got to get a little less granular, because a lot of times guys I'll see young athletes, they want to go granular. I think that's what will give them a taste of the life. But you're just picking and choosing the little snippets that are kind of what seem the easiest. No, pick the tough parts.
Yeah, like, so if let's take a 15-year-old student athlete as a good example for this kind of scenario. It's like you watch a Trey Drexel video, Atypical Life, and you're like, I want to cosplay that life. Here are the things that you take. Here are the things you don't take, right? So here are the things you start asking your parents. Hey, is it possible for us to get more whole foods in our diet? Like, hey, is it possible for us to have a protein, a starch, and a vegetable on every single plate that we eat, right? It's like, okay, well, what does that take? It's like, well, my parents say that we need to make some more money. It's like, okay, I got a part-time job, right? So it's like you feel like you're taking a step away, right? Because now I'm working over here, but you're using that extra money you're bringing in to put in better fuel to your body, pay for the gym membership, get better basketball shoes. I don't know what it is, right? But like you're doing outside work to reinforce the inside work, right? So that's it. I guess when you're 15 you can't get a job, so when you're 16, whatever.
Do you support child labor?
Yeah.
Cancel.
And the next thing, right? So yes, you're not going to be if you're a point guard, you're not going to have at 16 years old, you're not going to have a big who's going to understand the nuance of all the pick and roll reads. They're just not, right? Because like they're not going to understand that. But you are going to be able to understand the types of pick and rolls that you get, right? And so you can become the best at those reads for right now, because those are the ones that are available to you, right? You can practice the constraint of, I have to practice, guy goes under the screen, I pull up for 3 out at behind the screen, right? Like that's not easy footwork to start with. You have to get good at that, right? That is a skill in that particular motion. So it's like, okay, I work on that specific thing, right? So that when you are at Trey's place, you have 3 of the reads perfected, and now you're working on your overhead hook pass to the corner, right? Because you don't have to spend time on the footwork for shooting behind the screen when your guy goes under or whatever it is, right? And that's what that means. That's what cosplay the life means, is how can I adapt these things to my current reality rather than like copying Trey's reality, right? Because you don't live in Serbia or Portugal or Lithuania, right? You live in wherever you live. And so you have to make the best of what's available to you. So you adapt and you edit and you use wisdom, not just knowledge.
Yeah, and I think that's the key right there. You said wisdom, not knowledge. I think on YouTube you see so many of these pro workouts. Like I think the Guard Whisperer, one of my favorite YouTube channels, just because I have a little bit more relation with the level of guys he's training. But he trains a lot of NBA guys, like a Stefan Castle or a couple other guys. That's just the one that comes front of mind. And Benedict Mathurin, stuff like this. And you'll see their workouts, and you'll be like, I just put myself immediately in the place of 16-year-old Trey, and I'm like, oh, I guarantee you I would have tried to copy that workout that Benedict Mathurin was doing. And it's like, hey, man, that's not the thing. The thing is that he was in there for an hour, and he was going hard. So what does that look for you right now? And that's what you keep just nailing that point. It's the wisdom. It's not just the knowledge of this is what Benedict Mathurin does. This is not what Stefan Castle does, but these are the nuances of how he's doing it, how and why. How can you apply that how and why to our current circumstance? And dude, this is powerful, powerful stuff. And this is,
Can I
again,
add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the best example of this idea is how if you were fully healthy right now, which you will be soon. I saw the Alter G run. That was pretty sweet.
Let's go.
And you were watching that video, you can't even copy it because the NBA has different rules than your pro reality, right? So it's like, yes, you get different reads in the pick and roll when there's no center clogging the paint, when there's no guy standing underneath the hoop who can block everything, right? So you don't even get to copy Benedict Mathurin or Stefan Castle because their reality is different than yours, even though like you are within a standard deviation of their skill level, right? Which I think is a really important perspective, right? Because even that context matters. So take that and then take it all the way back to like high school basketball. It's like, yeah, like you're not going to learn very much from doing what Stefan Castle does. You just won't. But you can look at the way he approaches it. Last story, I promise. My freshman year of college, we had two assistant coaches. One of them was like an all-star runner at University of Washington. He was like a Washington State high school legend. Like he was the guy, right? And then one of his high school teammates and one of his best friends who was like a D2 legend for running, which Western Oregon actually. Shout out. And I was hurt for the first time in like my life. Like I didn't know how to cross train. I didn't know how to get better at running without running. This, which is like a big problem, right? If you can't get better without, then you just kind of are stuck. And I remember this, our coach, his name is Kyle. He was the D2 legend. He did a cross training workout at the same time as me, and he did it on the elliptical. And he stepped off that elliptical. He was wearing a gray t-shirt. I will remember this for the rest of my life. And he was dripping sweat. It looked more like he had jumped into a pool than it looked like he had been on the elliptical. And I realized in that moment, I was like, I am not training hard enough. I'm not trying hard enough, because I realized like that's what it looks like, right? And it was an opportunity where I was like, this is a guy who was close to my level, who had all the things that I wanted. And I was able to be like, okay, I see it. Like, I see what hard work is, right? He was also like 6'4", had a completely different like talent set than I did. So like I couldn't do the same stuff he did, but I saw what hard work looked like. Yeah. Right. And then from that point forward, I would like I would put the headphones in, and I would just, my goal was how much water can I get on the ground around this bike that I'm riding. Right. Yeah. And that's what we need. You need that as someone who's aspiring for something. You need this like mental image of not just facing the lions, but like battling the lions. Like, what does it look like to go into it with such a ferocious energy that you are like battling the unknown? And I don't want to be like a try harder David Goggins, like stay hard type of energy. But also, it's like, if you're gonna go into a fight, like, try to win.
Yeah,
You know,
right,
it's like
right. Go out swinging. Go out swinging.
Yeah.
No, dude, I think this podcast is super powerful today. I think, yeah, this idea of fear, how it paralyzes us, and then once we kind of get one, the fear, it doesn't recede, but the solution to that fear and that inaction is just simply showing up and taking action, and then once we're taking action, we build that foundation. Then the idea is to use wisdom and because like you said, knowledge is readily available around us. Then it's this conversation of how do we apply this knowledge to ourselves, and that's when really a mentor can step in and really help us in that process. But the mentor can't do a lot if the foundation isn't built, and that starts with showing up. No advice is going to do anything if you're not currently taking action. I can't tell you how to take action. That's on you. And that's the biggest thing as athletes, is that's the personal responsibility we have to have. And in the same way, you could be an athlete, you could be an entrepreneur, you could be whatever you want to be in life. It starts with showing up, and you show up despite the fear. You show up with the fear is going to be there, but you know that action is the first step at understanding what the lion is, understanding what the dragon is, and then allowing those battles to elevate you to elevate you to new levels, expand you to a higher self. So yeah, man, it was great. I think the baby's crying upstairs, so got to get to that. But I appreciate you, man, and make sure if you're listening on Spotify, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you guys like and subscribe. It helps it a lot. This is episode number 9. We plan to do a whole lot of these. I mean, I did this a couple days after the birth of my son. So this is important to me. I know it's important to you too, Kyle. And so hopefully you were here at episode 9. Hopefully you'll be here at episode 1000, because we're in here for the long haul, and we appreciate each and every one of you. So as always, get uncomfortable, live atypical. Cheers.